All right. Welcome to another season, another episode of the Grit and Grime Basketball Podcast. Here with some new faces, some good faces. I'm here as always, David Sago, your host. On one side of me, according to my screen, we didn't sort out the placements. Thomas Arnold.
Good evening.
And then we have two new faces, two new voices to introduce. We have Jose Garcia Vidal. Sorry, I started going off in my Spanish tip. And Patris Gordon.
What's up, all?
Happy to be here, guys.
Indeed.
Good. Welcome, guys. So gone through a few changes in the off season, but hoping that brings new energy, new ideas, but still the same high standards to the Grit and Grime Basketball Podcast. So welcome, guys, and welcome back, Tom.
Yeah.
And we're gonna start off the season with our Eastern Conference preview. So, as we've done in the past, we are going to run through the teams and how they've shaken up over the off season, which only just started and only just ended. Training camp began today. We're going to go through, talk a bit about some of the changes they've made, and then what we think of them, where we think they're going to finish, according to our own opinion on the moves they've made. So I'm going to start the clock as soon as I find the clock. I'm going to start the clock with me doing the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Bucks have had quite a controversial offseason. Everything's been, well, the elephant in the room, which everyone could see and hear all around the league, has been whether or not Giannis is going to sign his big deal to show his loyalty to the Bucks, or show that he wants to stay and show that he thinks the Bucks are a credible franchise in helping him win a championship, which is his ultimate goal. With that in mind, they decided to bring in Drew Holiday in a trade for Bledsoe and George Hill. They also sent a raft of picks to the Pelicans with that. It's 3 picks, 3 first rounders and 3 pick swaps as well. And then they also decided to announce a sign and trade with a player who hadn't signed yet in Bogdan Bogdanovic. For those of you that know the rules and understand the rules, you're not allowed to talk to players that haven't signed their contract yet until after a certain period, and the whole signing and trading was revealed or leaked well before that point was meant to take place, like a week before that point was meant to take place. So the league were like, are you trying to embarrass us? He said, no, Magic Johnson, we're going to nix your trade. So that got nipped in the bud, and then people weren't sure whether that trade was still going to go through when the right time came. But immediately at the first opportunity, the Bucks, what did they do? They waived Ilyasova, who was needed to match the salary of Bogdan Bogdanovic, and we knew at that moment that it wasn't going to happen. It's going to be all about playoff results, I think, in terms of retaining Giannis. If they can go deep in the playoffs and do enough to appease Giannis, then I think he will stay, and I think that's what the whole franchise will hinge on. I'm going to give myself a little loop there because I'm at the 2-minute mark, so I need to wrap it up. And yeah, that's where their season hinges. I still see them as contenders, even though I think they've gotten a little bit worse as far as depth goes, but maybe a little bit better as far as starting 5 goes. What do you guys think? Jose, do you want to start us off?
I think you're absolutely right. First, the really bad move in announcing Bogdan was in before he actually was. That would have added a lot of value to the team. I would really like to see Chris Middleton step up a little bit more as a second scoring figure, if you will. If he does, and Giannis has a bit more support, they might still have a chance. They will still be contenders, in my opinion. I think you're absolutely right.
Patrice?
I think signing Drew Holiday for the Bucks was a big deal. Definitely a big underrated player. One of my kind of favorite players as well. And I think he's much better than Eric Bledsoe. And I think since they lost Malcolm Brogdon as well, they kind of struggled at the point guard position. So I think someone to kind of help kind of Giannis as well. So I think the trades they've made and the people they've got in definitely favour him staying. And I think he'd be a fool to leave because they're going to offer him the max and stuff like that. And any other team he goes to, he's just going to struggle over again. And his identity is Milwaukee. So I think it makes sense for him to stay, definitely.
Tom?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to brought one of the Holiday brothers on. So now that was a bit of a mixed bag, but I'm slightly more interesting about in the Bogdanovic affair. What was that about? Like, was it because it was leaked by Woj quite early? Is that what happened? And then they
There's two stories going around. One is that the league stepped in and said it was tampering, which it is, and that other owners were unhappy that basically if they were fearful that if they brought in Drew Holiday and Bogdanovic, that Giannis would definitely stay, right? So it's in their best interest for a trade like that not to go through, not only because they might then win a championship, but also because they would want Giannis to be available. But then the other side of it is that there are rumors that Bogdanovic never ever signed off on it, that it was arranged, but it was leaked before he found out about it. And knowing about that trade and then the Drew Holiday trade meant that not only would he be a fourth option behind Giannis, Drew, Middleton, it also meant that he would have only been able to get paid so much once Drew Holiday was signed, because he would have gotten a bigger contract and Bogdanovic would have ended up with a smaller slice of the cap. So it's one of those two things or both.
Right. Do you still see them as a top three in the East then, even though they're shorter in terms of roster?
I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my doubts.
Yeah, I do.
Somehow. I don't know.
Who would you put above them?
That's the weird thing, is that the East, right? It's so
There you go.
so weird. I guess the Nets, which I'll be talking about, depending on what configuration they go, where they go with. I don't know. See, that's just the one team that can.
And then after
maybe
that, it's a toss up, right? So that's why I would put them there, just out of consistency. All right, I think it's time to move on.
Calm down.
Next team is the Toronto Raptors.
Oh damn, that'd be me.
There you go.
All right then. How do you want to do this? All right, cool. So in terms of who's in and who's out in there, two biggest players out of the Raptors are obviously Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, which, to be fair, I don't think they've been replaced at all by anyone. They've signed Aaron Baines and Alex Lane, and I think the biggest move of the offseason in terms of keeping people on the roster was resigning Fred VanVleet, which is Dave's absolute favorite MVP every year. And they resigned Chris Boucher, my favorite name in the entire NBA. So they finished I think they were 53-19 last season by the time the NBA stopped. They didn't have the playoff run I think we were all hoping they would have. I think Marc Gasol was pretty much, or he looked like he was closer to retirement as than but still being the all-star and an influential player on the court that he was. So I guess losing him, I don't know if it's such a massive deal in the end. We'll see. You guys can let me know if you feel the same. I still see them quite high up in the East, but maybe not top 3 anymore. So I've been pretty mean to them when I'm now put them into the top 5 to top 8. So I think top 5, everything goes well, no injuries and everything goes well. 8 if Van Fleet doesn't have a good season, if the rest of the players are not performing as they should be, unless they can add more bodies in there, I don't see them being as good as they were. So I think I've read somewhere they were still hoping to sign Antetokounmpo in 2021, but I don't know if that's one of his primary destination if he was to leave the Bucks. That's it. See that just on time. You're welcome.
I actually did read that they are interested in getting Antetokounmpo, and they got Kawhi at one point, and we never thought that could happen, right? Yeah. Baines by no means replaces Ibaka and Gasol, but he's a solid defender. Yeah. He give you the hustle, and we'll see. I mean, Siakam still there, Kyle Lowry still leader. I still see them, up there.
I think the fact that they've got Lowry and Van Vliet, as good as they are, they're still 2 undersized point guards who can't really jump. You know what I mean? And I think when they go to the hole, they're going to get the shots blocked, 60% of the time, And I think, because of the bubble and stuff, they had a time break off. They didn't have that kind of run. During the season, I think they went on like a 15 to 18 game winning streak and stuff where they was doing well. But I think the key factor was Pascal Siakam didn't show up in the bubble. In the regular season, he was doing fine, but then towards the end of the season and in the playoffs, he was nowhere to be seen. And was that symptomatic of his skill set, or was that just because of the whole situation? That is the key decider, I think, for the Raptors moving forward, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree that Siakam taking that step into being the first option. When the season started, he was absolutely on fire and seemed like he could take on all of that responsibility. And then as the season went on, that definitely faded to the point where I think Kyle Lowry was their highest scorer in the playoffs. And Kyle Lowry's a good player, excellent floor general, but he can't be relied on to score every single night in the playoffs. Fred VanVleet got the big money. He's going to have to step up, but they're going to have to find some kind of way to get that offense ticking because they don't have Kawhi to rely on as they did, as you guys have rightly said. I would say solid playoffs. I think they've taken a slight step back from top of the East.
Fair.
Yeah, and then
playoffs for sure, but it depends on Siakam. It depends on, there's a lot of factors that and I don't know if losing Ibaka is maybe a bigger loss than you would imagine, because he could shoot the 3. Possible. He could, he's a good rebounder. He's a great defender also. So they've not replaced him with, Aaron Baines is fine. He's tough. He can bring you a good bunch of minutes, but the same quality than Ibaka, I don't believe so. So
no. Agree.
It's just math.
Yeah. All right. So next team is the Boston Celtics. Let's get green.
Yes, the Boston Celtics. So notable players that they added: Tristan Thompson from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Jess Teague, and they re-signed Taco Fall into a 2-way contract. They obviously lost, and their biggest loss is Gordon Hayward. Brad Wanamaker, Enes Kanter, and Vincent Poirier. Biggest loss again, Gordon Hayward. He went and got some good money from the Hornets, but we'll talk about that later. Their X factor and their best move, they gave a max contract to Jason Tatum. Danny Ainge knows they're trying to build a franchise around this player, and I think they're absolutely right. I think this is a great move, in my opinion. This guy was averaging 23 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists last season. Great move, in my opinion. great move. In my opinion, I still believe in the Celtics when it comes to the prediction. I still leave him up there in the East. Kemba Walker, still a solid player, averaging 20 last season. His knee is not great, but Teague can be a good sub. Tristan Thompson can be solid in the paint. They needed something like that. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Smart and Brown are still there. Good players. And, obviously, Gordon Hayward was averaging 17 last season, but that just means that Kemba is going to have to score 7 more per game and Tatum another 10, which they easily can do. Again, in my opinion, contenders, at least in the East. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I always feel with the Celtics, like it feels like they're missing an X factor.
Right.
They've got Tatum, but like I don't know. They always when I think Celtics, I think solid. I think tough to to beat, and I don't know. There's no there's no X factor. There's no LeBron. There's no Giannis. There's no Kawhi. There's no that's little something, that little spice that you need. So I don't know. I mean, in the East, yeah, easy top. There you go, top 3. Up there with the rest. But I don't know. I don't know. It's always I can never figure them out. It's like they can go to the finals or they go to the semis and then they never take the extra step. They go the extra mile and do it. So I don't know. So there was a mystery to me. It seems like it's the same thing over and over again with them. Been running the same team or the same core of players, but it's not really going anywhere. Maybe there's thinking behind it, and they think they can run it a couple more times. More experience, more playoff experience, and then they can just maybe one day. They only need one time to get to the finals and win it all. So we don't know, but there's still a mystery to me. I can't quite figure them out.
It's quite funny. I think re-signing Taco Fall is like his most notable kind of appearance last season was Aaron Gordon dunking over him for one, and number 2 was that out of bounds play where the Raptors hit the buzzer, hit the 3 on the buzzer. It's kind of like, what, Brad Stevens, why are you even putting him in? He doesn't use him at all. Obviously, he wants to see him grow into a kind of decent player, but I think he's just there for kind of novelty factor. I do believe if the Celtics would have beaten Miami, they may have had a better run than Miami in the finals.
Wow.
But at the same time, they didn't make it. They haven't made it. They've always gotten to like the Eastern Conference Finals, but they never seem to have that edge. Like you said, they're missing that key ingredient, But, how many teams have LeBron? Just one team. So Celtics, I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm
glad I'm not the only.
I think they're a very good team, and they've been a very good team, or at least had a very good roster. But yeah, like you guys said, they're missing something. And for me, I think the thing that they're missing is like a real playmaker. Like Kemba Walker is a good point guard, but he's more of a scoring point guard. Sure. Jason Tatum is a scorer first. Jaylen Brown can score for you as like a secondary or tertiary option off the catch, off the drive. But you don't look at anyone on that roster and say that guy's a playmaker. And I think as much as they sort of share the ball around and everyone gets 3 or 4 assists on the team, I think they lack someone to really sort of knit things together. Like, I think maybe the perfect signing would have been like I don't know if he still got it or not, but Draymond Green. Like if they had signed, obviously he wasn't on the market or anything like that. They weren't going to trade for him, but just in an ideal world, looking at that roster, I would love to have a Draymond Green in there at center instead of, say, a Tristan Thompson, for example. And I think having that kind of player would perfectly knit together the rest of the pieces that they have around them. Or, I mean, in a crazy world like Jokic, for example, like a player like that could really enhance what they're doing and maximize all of the talent that they have there. But this is the East. And in the NBA in general, a lot of these teams are flawed. Even the contenders are flawed. So, yeah, I think, as you've rightly said, they'll be at the top of the East somewhere. But ultimately, I wouldn't see them winning a championship this year. They're contenders in the East, but I wouldn't see them as a championship team. So that is the Celtics. Moving on to the Indiana Pacers.
Hey, Indiana, sweet Indiana. Okay, so in terms of kind of off-season moves for the Indiana Pacers, not much actually. It's been really kind of quiet. They haven't really lost anybody except for TJ Leaf, unless you really know who he is. Averaged about 2 points, 2 rebounds and stuff.
Wow.
He used to play with one of those funny shooters. What's the Ball brothers back in what's the team? UCLA back in the days. But anyway,
Right.
wait
until I talk about the Bulls, then you'll be asking, who is this guy? Wait until I get to them.
But on the flip side, it could be a good thing. I think the fact that they'll kind of keep their core nucleus, because many of their players like Sabonis was injured. Oladipo obviously still getting over his kind of knee injury as well. And TJ Warren's kind of had a little breakout in the bubble, which hopefully can continue kind of for the next season. So they've kind of got a strong kind of good nucleus. I know Miles Turner was on the trading block for a bit, but I think he's going to return kind of as well. I think they finished kind of 5th, I think it was last season. So they're kind of a strong team, even though Miami kind of knocked them out, clean sweep in the playoffs. I still think they've got a lot of kind of potential. Their potential is kind of like one of their kind of main kind of key aspects. And with Nate McMillan gone as well, quite surprisingly, got a new coach, Nate Boyat, I can't say his name, Boyat Green, who was an assistant for the Toronto Raptors for a couple of years. I think they're still on the cusp of, first round, maybe second round. It all depends on kind of, so how their kind of key veterans come back kind of hard. And if TJ Warren could be the star that we think potentially could be, it's just whether he can kind of diversify his game kind of enough across the season rather than just 10 games in the bubble. So I think they'll make the playoffs, but maybe just first round again, second round if they're lucky. But yeah, a good team, mid-market team, a lot of fun every now and again, but nothing really to write home about.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Victor Oladipo and he's been wanting out all summer? The talk is that there was no market for him. No one wanted to take him on coming off the injury that he had. Do you guys think he can get back to something of what he was before, or does an athlete like that, having the injury that he had, is it too difficult to get back to that kind of reliance on explosive athleticism?
It's very difficult to get back to that injury is very difficult to deal with. I think for Oladipo, it's because I looked into him and what he's done in the NBA, and it's like there's really that one season where he was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And since then, like he had the injury, and then he came back in the bubble. I think he wasn't in there, but he didn't play or he didn't do anything that was particularly amazing. So I don't know with him if there's a case of his reality, which is like I want out and I want this big contract, or I want somewhere that is going to a team that can win the title. And I think in his head is like still trying to sell that one good season he had, right? I think teams are looking at him more in terms of okay, can he go back to what you say? Like, can he go back to any sort of good shape where he could be productive for our team and bring the same sort of value he brought in that good season? But I don't know. It's. I think he was linked to the Knicks at some point. I think the Knicks went, nah, you're too expensive. Even the Knicks turned him down.
If the Knicks turn you down, you must be worried. You gotta be worried. I think, I agree. He hasn't been the same. His best season was 17-18. I think he averaged about 23. His first year in Indiana. I mean, he talks so much. Like when I see his posts and when he finishes the season, he's like, we're ready to work again, go back to the lab, and he's always like so motivated. But his body is not as motivated as his mind is, I think. There's always talks about how everybody sleeps on the Pacers, but they're nothing more than a 4th, 5th seed in the East, and that's it.
Which is good. Which is good enough for the small market team, as we say, and
Absolutely.
they're not a massive, like, they're not a sexy destination for anyone.
Mm.
And I think it's quite a good thing for them. That's where they should be, and they always seem like, like you said, people are sleeping on them, and they always feel like they're ending on that sort of spot,
Agree.
like fourth, fifth, maybe sixth if they're having a bad one, but they're always there. Again, like they're like Celtic, but redneck Celtic. They're
A
a
bit
bit
lower,
like
lower tier.
lower tier, yeah. Solid, always there, reliable. They just need Reggie Miller.
Yeah, and Paul George and the whole
Yeah,
run.
Paul George.
Go back, yeah.
Yeah.
Roll it back.
Hibbert.
All right. So after Indiana comes Miami. So NBA finalists this year. Miami, for me, it's all about consistency with them as well. So as you said, they swept the Pacers in the first round, whooped the Bucks in 5, and then walked through the Celtics in 6 before succumbing in the finals. I think, as I said when we were discussing and analyzing the finals, I think they really believed that they had a very, very, very good chance of winning the finals if they didn't have any injuries. And I think their off-season moves or lack thereof has sort of shown exactly that they still believe in what they did and what they can do with the roster that they have. They have this nice balance between experienced players, players on the come up, and then players in their prime. And Jimmy, they believe that they had a real chance of winning the championship last season, and that they can do the same thing again with their balance of experience and players on the come up. They pretty much tore through the East during the bubble, and I think they, more than anyone, believes in what happened in the bubble as being realistic. A lot of teams, their fellow finalists and the Lakers included, sort of disregarded what happened in the bubble and acted as if it didn't happen and made moves as if it didn't happen. Whereas I think the Heat have sort of doubled down and thought that what happened was legitimate and we can build off what happened there. More or less run it back with the same team. They added Avery Bradley, and then signed Bam to a max deal, or just short of a max deal, I think.
Yeah.
And then significantly, he has the same agent as Giannis. Some people are reading into that the fact that they signed him to a max means that the agent knows that Giannis is going to sign a max deal with the Bucks, because now they wouldn't have quite enough money to sign Giannis to a max deal. I'm not sure it would be a good fit there anyway. Defensively, it'd be great. Offensively, I don't think so. But I think they believe in what they did and believe in what they can do. And the East has sort of taken a step back, I think, as a whole conference. So I think Miami will be able to float into a higher seed this season, and then potentially have an even easier run through the playoffs. So I have them as contenders in the East, Eastern contenders.
I think that's fair. I think they did the right thing in signing Bam. He's a very important part of what they're trying to build. Yeah, and I find it really interesting what you just said. They believe in themselves more than anybody believes in them, right? And that's key. Definitely contenders, at least for the East. We'll see how far they get, but definitely like top seeders, indeed.
They've lost Jay Crawford, right? Yeah, he's gone, isn't it?
Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder, sorry. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might be a bigger loss than we can anticipate. I think he's really, really good in what he brings. So I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm sort of I kind of agree with the mentality of like, let's keep it together, let's run the same core, like, especially when it's been successful like that. To me, it will depend also on how much Dragic has left in the tank. Because when Dragic is good, then they're borderline unplayable in the East. So it'll be interesting to see how much he's got left. Then the rest, yeah, I think they've pretty much given up on the hope of signing Giannis when they got Adebayo back in there. But again, I agree with you. Just I never pictured for 1 second Giannis going over there. I don't think he fits the spirit of the team, if you will. But yeah, top 5? You said top 3, top tier. Not giving numbers.
Top 3, yeah, that's top
Yeah.
3 contenders.
I'm in agreement as well. I think the Miami kind of culture is so kind of tough. There's no other way to put it. Tough guys. You know what I mean? Crowder was obviously a tough guy as well, but to see him go is a shame. But I think Bam, Butler, Dragic, they're all just tough blue collar players.
Yeah.
And I think they've got Robertson now who kind of cleans it up a little bit with his good shooting as well. So I think great team to watch. Great team just in terms of kind of ethics. You know what I mean? And they pass amazingly. I noticed they pass so well as a team, and they're so gelled. So their chemistry and identity is kind of fit. It's just whether like you're saying, if Dragic can keep going for the whole season, if they can maintain it throughout the whole season, because it's going to be a much longer season. Well, 72. Is it 72 games? I'm not sure how many games.
72, yeah, compressed as well.
Yeah. So I mean, did they just have a good player front, or would they have a good season? I think that's just the question of whether they can keep it going throughout the whole year, so they can get a better position, maybe in the playoffs if there's going to be a home court advantage this time around. But it's tough to see. But on paper, fantastic. Like the Heat.
Yeah, cool. Our next team is the Philadelphia 76ers.
Indeed. The Sixers. Interesting team indeed. So they added Danny Green, great addition in my opinion, Seth Curry, Tony Bradley, Terrence Ferguson, and big Dwight Howard. They lost their biggest loss, in my opinion, Al Horford. Obviously, Josh Richardson and Cyrus Smith as well. Alec Burks and Raul Neto. Ryan Burkhoff, Kylo Quinn, and Glenn Robinson III. So quite a lot of people left. The X Factor, Joel Embiid is still the best player in this team. He's getting better. He needs to, cool off, calm his head. Stop tweeting so much and start talking, start playing more. And this will be a very interesting team to watch. I can't wait for the feud between Embiid and Dwight. Danny Green, solid player in my opinion, extremely underrated. Same as Seth Curry. Seth Curry, I mean, he averages 44% on his career from behind the 3-point line. That's really, really good. Let's see what Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons can still add. They have a good roster. They're going to be in the top, in my opinion, fourth, maybe third seed in the East, behind Celtics and maybe Raptors, and we just mentioned as well the Bucks. So we'll see. My opinion, they'll still be up there in the East.
I don't see it primarily just because Embiid, like you say, an X factor, but he doesn't know the limitations of his game. You know what I mean? He keeps shooting loaded threes unnecessarily. He's a leader. He's not a good leader in the way LeBron James leads his team and he separates his team. You know what I mean? I think the Shake Milton incident that happened in the bubble and stuff like that. Ben Simmons, clearly, them two don't gel as much as everyone wants them to gel and stuff. And then obviously Al Horford didn't work kind of with him as well. So I think he separates players, and I think he's got so much personality, which is a good thing. But like you said, he needs to focus on his game. And I think ultimately he's not mature enough to kind of focus all in. You know what I mean? To where it's about basketball and that's it. His reputation is borderline, in my opinion. So I don't think the Sixers are quite ready with the additions that they made. I don't think Danny Green and Dwight Howard, great players, but I don't think they bring that leadership where he would look up to them, even though they've won championships. So I think it'll be an interesting season for the Sixers. They're
still good enough to be up there in the East,
They are, but they had that terrible losing streak last season that was amazing away from home. that was kind of like they just lost every game away. So I
Mm.
don't know how they're going to be on the road this year. So I think if their road record's better, then potentially, in my opinion.
I would have loved to see D'Antoni coaching them. Really, really, really love that. When he was rumored to be the next Sixers coach, I was up for it. It took me about 5 seconds to, I went from yeah, that's great. Let's get Ben Simmons to shoot more threes. But
Yeah, you guys don't know, but I made a dinner bet with some friends that Ben Simmons makes 12 or more threes. We're gonna prorate it for the 72 games this season. If he doesn't, I'm going to be buying dinner for, well, me and Mike will be buying dinner for about 5 other dudes at the end of the season. So I'm banking on Doc Rivers being the Ben Simmons and getting him in the right mindset to let it fly. But I think the moves that they've made are the right moves. Like Daryl Morey's come in, and we thought that the Horford contract couldn't be moved. He managed to get it done, and even got a 3-and-D player in Danny Green, who's the perfect player to play with Simmons and Embiid. And though they've had their struggles in the past, their best season came when they just surrounded those two with shooters. Ben Simmons is one of the best 3-point shot creators in the league, not for himself, but one of the best at creating for others. And bringing in a guy like Seth Curry, who has the all-time record for career 3-point percentage, just a hair ahead of his brother, is again another perfect match. There's still a bit of movement to be done, and Tobias Harris is going to have to be more consistent than he has been in the past. But I think from the position they were in before summer to the position before the end of the season to where they are now, I think they've taken a few steps forwards. So yeah, I would have them as well, like maybe teetering between contender and solid playoffs in the 3-4 spot, as you guys have said. Whether that becomes more playoff success remains to be seen. So our next team is the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh yes. All right, you ready for this? This is a good one. Right, so they've been busy. Yeah, we can say they've been one of the busiest team in the summer, or whatever if you want to call it, if it's not summer. So obviously they got a new coach in, a new assistant coach also in. So they signed Steve Nash as the head coach and Mike D'Antoni as the assistant head coach.
2 head coaches so far.
2 head coaches for
the Murray.
of 1. Yeah, which we'll talk about it in my X Factor bit, but we can come back to those 2 guys. I've said players in. I've put KD on the list because obviously he wasn't there last season, so it's almost like they just signed him. Got him Jeff Green. Jeff Green is back in there. The last 2 players to have ever played for the Sonics, still in the NBA. So that would be a great reunion. They've added Landry Shamet, which I'm still in the Shamet hype train for some reason. Still, somebody's got to be on it, and that's me. They've signed Joe Harris and Tyler Johnson. So I think Joe Harris obviously is the 3-point champion, or shooting champion, or whatever you want to call it. And Tyler Johnson is a good backup point guard, second guard, whatever. Obviously, they got rid of their coach, Jack Vaughn, but again, who cares? Lost Justin Anderson, Garrett Temple, Jamal Crawford, who is about 65 years old now and is still in the NBA, and Tyson Chandler, who still also. So the X Factor, going back to Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni. So I think with the players you've got, KD, Kyrie, big names, big mouth. You need somebody to be more of a friendly head coach. So Steve Nash, I think, has got a good relationship with KD. I think he was coaching him for a summer, I think, something like that. So he knows him quite well. I think Mike D'Antoni would be there more to be the tactical. Sorry, I can't say this. Mike D'Antoni and tactical, but yeah, he's going to be the brain more of the two. I think Steve Nash is more there to lead the men on the field, and D'Antoni will be there to draw plays and make sure everything goes as it should be. So now saying that, I don't know what sort of style we'll be seeing on the from the Nets. Is it going to be 7-second shooting? Is it going to be all threes? Is it going to be? I don't really know what to expect. And I think that would be the interesting stuff. The interesting thing with them is it will be to see how they put everything, the gel together. And then there's still the trade rumors with James Harden in there somewhere, which would kill the depth. The roster would be so short. And I think, like everyone says, there's only one ball. If you got Kyrie, KD, and James Harden on there, good luck. Get the Dolly Pran out, because that would be a massive headache for any coach. That's it.
Controversial.
Oh, hang on. Top one or top two if KD is healthy, obviously, in the East.
Can't argue with that, can you? I mean, it's KD. He's a leader, a scorer, and I completely agree. I mean, I'm so excited to see Steve Nash back in there. That's a player that I enjoyed watching so much. It's going to be very, very interesting. Yes, maybe top 3, but super interesting.
Yeah, I do wonder if Steve Nash will have the kind of Jason Kidd effect and stuff like that. But we'll see. Throw some water, timeout or whatever it is. But totally. KD, I think everyone thinks come back from the Achilles injury, he'll be fine. But it's one of the worst injuries in sport.
Yeah.
And he won't have his lift, he won't have his dynamic, and he'll be thinking about it kind of all the time. So, but he's got Kyrie as someone he can kind of dish off to when he's kind of double teamed and whatnot. And I like the big men on the team. I think, DeAndre Jordan catches alley-oops. Jarrett Allen doesn't ask for much. He's not a post-up man. So I think their space under the floor should be quite good. I think it's just dependent on kind of Spencer Dinwiddie to kind of be that facilitator. I think they haven't got many kind of facilitators on that team. They've got a lot of kind of people that are ball dominant and can pull it up, but whether they can facilitate and just get everyone involved is the kind of bigger question. But on paper, I mean, they look quite scary, actually. You know what I mean? And I think Karis LeVert, kind of one of my kind of favorite, kind of underrated, under the radar kind of players. He puts up numbers when he needs to. He's a tough kind of kid, but again, will he feel like a second-rate citizen against kind of Kyrie and Durant once they come in? So it's going to be quite interesting how it works out, and looking forward to watching them play. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, right there, you've just named 4 players who will play with the ball in their hands. Although KD is probably one of the quietest scorers we've ever seen in the league, at some point the ball finds him. So that dynamic is going to be interesting, and I would expect for there to be another move or two for them come the trade deadline mid-season. If they're doing a trade deadline mid-season, I don't know how they're gonna have all of that stuff shake out. I'm sure they will, but yeah, I don't think this will be the same roster come the playoffs for sure. I think there will be some other movement, whether that is a Harden trade, which I don't think is going to happen now. But I think something's gonna give over there with 4 head coaches and 1 ball. But we'll see. I don't know if they'll have the regular season record that would warrant them as contenders, but I think come playoff time, they're going to be tough to deal with all of their one-on-one scorers. Yes. So we move. Next up, we have the Orlando Magic.
The Orlando Magic. Not very exciting, guys. Well, their biggest addition, in my opinion, is their draft pick, 15th overall, Cole Anthony, son of our, can we say, colleague, Greg Anthony. Now he's a colleague of us. He used to be a great player.
Yeah.
They lost DJ Augustine, Wesley Wundu, Melvin Fraser Jr., BJ Johnson, and Big Law. Their X factor is it's just a tough team to find something that you really like. However, I do like two things. They have two duos that I actually like. Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony, I think, can be a great addition. He can have a good impact. He's going to have the minutes, and we'll see how he adapts to the NBA, which I think he's going to be fit right in. And I like actually another duo that they have, and that's the European duo, Vucevic and Fournier. They're solid, solid European genes in them. They come in. They're good shooters. They're solid defenders. They can score. They're not the most athletic players, but they have a lot of experience. They're good. And you have Aaron Gordon. He's a 12, 13 points a game player. I see them again fighting for an 8th seed. And a side question here for you guys is: would you compare Aaron Gordon to Vince Carter?
Let me go and let me stop you right there.
Can we all say this in unison? 3, 2, 1. No.
Wow.
That's blasphemy right there.
I wanted to test you. Yeah, he's gonna give us a couple of exciting dunks over the season. That's it.
Yeah, funny you said that. I've just started playing 2K21, and I got Aaron Gordon in my fantasy draft thing, and after 2 games, I'm going to trade him. I think when they're supposed to get rid of him at some point. I thought there were trade talks around him.
There were trade talks of him going to the Hawks, but then him and Collins is a bit redundant. And if anything, Collins can score a bit better. He can defend a bit better.
Yeah. Just Aaron Gordon is just like, he's on. I won't say he's just not on the cusp, but he's on the cusp of either greatness or into oblivion. You know what I mean? And stuff. And he's just like, you see him like have a highlight where he's done a 360 in the game, and then he's like, you look at his score sheet, and he's 2 for 20 or something like that. He's just like one of those anomalies in the NBA. We like, mate, if I had your potential, seriously, I'll be making some serious cash.
You know what he is? He's a YouTube player. But what I mean by that is like it's all highlights, and it's like a lot of like you said, 360, and then suddenly he'll hit a buzzer beater at some point, and like he'll win one game, so do something incredible that you've never seen before. But then I don't think with him there's anything like he does everything okay. His dunking is what separates him from the rest, but there's nothing else in terms of ability that is, the NBA, you've got to be almost a specialist at something. Either you're like a great 3-point shooter, you have to be he's a good dunker, but it's not somebody that like Vince Carter, like you said, it's like you see his dunks, it's out of the ordinary, and that this like he's good, but it's not a specialist at anything. So like you say, like Patris says, like it's either it's gonna carry on that way, let's do the same, or maybe he's gonna find something that he's great at that we don't know about maybe next season, or he's just gonna be an average player that's gonna be there until he's 38 and end up on the Knicks, because we like that.
He's mediocre. Like you said, he has so many tools physically that we like saw the off season where this off season he learned to shoot, and now he's going to be a 3-point threat, and that didn't quite materialize. And then he's a great passer, he's going to be like Draymond Green, and then that didn't really materialize. And then the defense, and he's not even a jack of all trades. He's like a 7 of all trades. And we just haven't seen him make the jump with anyone's skill. And the Orlando Magic is a bit of a 7 of all trades right now as well. I think they've taken a short step back and losing DJ Augustine. And they will probably make the play-in tournament. Like the number of teams that can potentially get in the playoffs is ridiculous now. So they're probably in that 7 to 10 range for me. Hey, thanks for the bubble, Orlando. Moving on. Whoops. Moving on to our next team, which is the Washington Wizards.
We're really getting in the
Washington
good
Wizards.
stuff now.
Okay.
It's the good stuff now. Let's go.
Oh dear. So it makes you wonder when a team kind of goes to the bubble and its top players decide not to go. That's but so the Washington Wizards obviously got Bradley Beal, 30 points a game, 6 assists, almost a triple-double a game, but he's missing his kind of cohort, as we all know. John Wall, been injured for about 20 years. It's really quite terrible. And he's got gets 40 million a year as well, doesn't he? So it's like, how do we get rid of this guy? So I don't know. It's such a dilemma for the Wizards at present. Had a losing record last season, won about 25 games in total. Barely, they didn't make the playoffs, obviously. Bradley Beal, sensational player, can dribble with both hands, great shooters, athletic, an all-star. He could be in the running for MVP if he plays as well as he did last season. But all they've got is a guy they signed to 5 years. I think it's 5 years. The great shooter, Davis Bertans. Great shooter and all, but, liability on defense, flat-footed, I think he surprised many people. And I don't think he's going to do it again this season. I think teams are going to lock down on him. It's going to see how versatile he really is. And, looking at their bench, they haven't really got much else except for the young buck from Japan, Rui, who had a decent rookie season. Is it his second season? I think.
Yes. Yeah.
First season. Yeah. So it's going to be his second season now.
Yeah. So he's a decent player. I like, from Gonzaga. Great little player. But they didn't sign anybody, worth mentioning to kind of back up Bradley Beal, which they're going to need. Ish Smith is the fastest point guard I've ever seen in my life, but yet, he's I won't say liability, but he's got limited tools, limited range in his game. So again, I think they'll probably barely make the 10th, 9th spot again. It's going to be another painful season for Bradley Beal in particular, just because he's got no help. Until John Wall comes back, it's whether they're going to trade him or let him go, because he's not going to be much of an asset coming off these numerous injuries as well. But it's an interesting dichotomy, should we say, for the Wizards. So let's see what happens.
You know what's funny with the Wizards is there's a lot of people that talk shit about the Knicks, but the Wizards it's on so many levels. I don't know why they're here. They've got the only saving grace they've got is having Bradley Beal, which is one of my favorite players in the NBA. It's so awesome to watch. But the rest of it is where are you going? What's your plan? What do you want to do in the NBA? I don't think they themselves know where they're going. I don't even know who the general manager is. I don't even know who their coach is. I don't even know what's going on there.
They got a new GM there. They made a lot of front office changes for the first time in a very long time. So I think they are going to start to sort of make some positive moves. Although everything you said about Bertans was right, I think in that signing might make more sense further down the line when they bring in some defensive personnel and some people to complement him as a role player and in turn complement Beal as a star player. But yeah, it's a rough time being a Wizards fan. They had flashes of success in the Eastern playoffs in the mid to late tens, I guess we call them.
Sure.
And now that injury has really just crippled the franchise, pun intended, I guess.
When is John Wall supposed to come back? Is he supposed to be back this season?
I think he is. I think he's ready to go. From what he's saying, I think.
What shape?
Yeah, they're going to take it, very carefully, obviously, because he's a franchise player. I've seen the kind of summer videos where they're always working out. Him and Beasley were going at it one-on-one and stuff. But you can never tell from those videos whether, they're real or not. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they signed Bertans again. Like I'm a big Spurs fan. I loved it when Bertans was there. You know, any player that played for the Spurs, I kind of like have an attachment to. And, you know, he's a solid player, but he's not worth it. Rui Hachimura, the Japanese rookie sophomore this year, he's good. He's the future, but it's going to be another disappointing season for them. We'll see what happens with John Wall.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Charlotte Hornets, the house that Jordan built. It's got some holes in it. So the Hornets, I think the biggest outgoing player was Nicholas Batum. What did they do? They stretched and waived him.
Yeah.
So his contract will still count against their cap for the next, I think it's 4 or 5 years. I think it's 4 years, in line with the Gordon Hayward contract, which is 4 years, 120 million. Very controversial. Other than that, they've maintained their core, but then also signed LaMelo Ball with the first round pick, 3rd overall. In terms of on-court play, I think they will have gotten a bit better, actually. And with the way that as we've said, the play-in tournament works and things, I think they have a very good chance of getting into that play-in tournament with the roster that they have, injuries permitting. But we got to talk about the Gordon Hayward contract, I guess. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was surprised. But as much as I was shocked and surprised at the figure, when you look at the situation there, as a small market team, they've managed to sign a former All-Star in free agency.
Yep.
Now,
The biggest name.
you can say he's not what he was. He averaged 17-ish points per game last season as the 4th option on the Celtics.
I'll say third.
Third, fourth. He potentially could do more than that, and now he'll be playing for a team where he will be a much higher option than that. Playing with, I guess the players that he's playing with aren't as good, so that might affect him. He'll be able to have the ball in his hands a bit more over there. But for him, I'm sure the security was important, giving up the 34 million for next year in order to sign the longer deal with more security. And they just wouldn't, their chances of signing any player like this was slim to none anyway. And their chances of improving their team through free agency will always be slim to none. So you have to do something with the cap space at a certain point when you're a team like this. So that'll be one to watch, whether he can stay healthy. And then just the guard rotation with Ball, Rozier, and where is he? Devontae Graham. How they make those three work, I think, will be interesting. What do you guys think?
I think what do you do if you're a small market team? You can't all of a sudden become the best team in the NBA. You have to do it slowly. This is a good move. They're not going to fight for the championship this season. They're not going to fight for the championship next season and probably the following season. But you have a good rookie in Ball. I see a lot of potential in him, and Hayward can still give you 20-25 points a game. So the fact that next year you have Hayward, somebody else might feel enticed to come to the Hornets. Let's not forget that this team is run by the one and only. So that's always a good thing, isn't it?
I'm on the fence with Michael Jordan when it comes to ownership. I love it in one regard because obviously he's one of the greatest players of all time. But as an owner, he just disappoints me. Just there's nothing in all these kind of tenure that's kind of been symbolic of his playing kind of status. But I think ownership is a different ball game, so I don't come down on him too hard. I think LaMelo Ball was probably a good pickup in the fact that he can just distribute, and he's not a great shooter. He's in great form. and he can just distribute and he can bring the fans in. Gordon Hayward will bring the fans in. And I think it's just about bums on seats. But whether we get bums on seats this season is another subject.
Exactly.
So, I think from one aspect is a fan draw, but it's just, is it beyond their control? So I think they'll be a team to watch, but whether they'll do any real damage in the East, that remains to be seen. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that the drafting Ball was a move by Jordan to sell more jerseys. So I'm not at all on the. I'm no longer on the Ball hype train again. There you go. I say hype train again. Actually, I never was, but so I don't know. I think the only thing exciting in Charlotte that would be happen is probably the one-on-one between MJ and Ball Senior.
LeVar, baby.
If we get to see that, then I'm all good. Like, apart from that, I don't care about the Hornets.
I'm eager to see where LeVar's season ticket seats are when we do start having fans again. I get the feeling Jordan's gonna be on one side and LeVar's gonna be all the way on the other side.
Dude, if Jordan's clever and he wants that spotlight on the Hornets, you put LeVar Ball behind you and then just talk shit the entire time. Get him to talk shit and then get the cameras on it. That's great. Great content.
They can compare trainers and see who's the best. BBB or Jordan Brand?
That'll last a while, won't it? Next up, speaking of exciting teams, we've got the Chicago Bulls.
Oh shit! Already? Oh wow! Oh man! All right, you ready? All right. So, oh god, where do I start? Let's talk about everyone who's escaped the Bulls. They obviously fired Jim Boylan after what felt like an eternity as the head coach. And I think the biggest loss is Chris Dunn to the Hawks. So it's hard to say that with a straight face, that the biggest loss is Chris Dunn. So obviously, actually, on the counterpart of that, their greatest signing is getting Billy Donovan, as a head coach. I think that's a great move. Somebody that understands basketball and loves basketball. That's going to be great. They did get Garrett Temple from, where's he from?
Brooklyn.
Oh, he was on the Nets. Yeah, he was from Brooklyn. Who else they got? They re-signed a bunch of no ones and drafted Marko Simonovic, who they thought was a 45-year-old guy out of Europe. So they had a very average season last year, if you want to say. I think they didn't make the playoffs, I think, for a while now. That'll remain the same, I think, for this season. The X factor, I guess, is Billy Donovan as a new head coach. See how he gets to coach. What's his face? We talked about him earlier on.
Zach LaVine.
Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Another good dunker.
Get along. Yeah. Another Aaron Gordon. And then how do they deal with the loss of Chris? Of Chris Dunn? Like, how do you replace somebody who's averaging 2 points a game? Who knows? So I think Bulls would be a bottom of the East. Bottom of the East.
There is.
Cheers.
In Chris Dunn's defense, he was a good defender and actually almost single-handedly, when he was on the floor, raised their defensive efficiency a few points. So they're going to be very rough to watch on that end of the floor without him. But I'll leave it at that, guys. Feast on this interesting plateau that's been set for you.
Not much more to add. I think it'd be good to see Zach LaVine, dunking. He had one really good game when he scored but 6 or 7 3-pointers.
Charlotte
and the buzzer beater.
Yeah,
that's great.
A very hard game, obviously. So that's it.
I think with Chicago, it's just discipline. You know what I mean? Like, Miami's got the discipline. You know what I mean? Chicago have just got they've got no core, no center. You know what I mean? No backbone. They've got a lot of players, like talent-wise, which you could think, oh, on paper they could be good, but they haven't got that kind of that drive to take them to the next level where teams take them seriously. I was watching that game where Klay Thompson hit like 15 3-pointers against them, and they were just like, it was painful. I mean, like, have some respect for yourself, guys. You know what I mean? It's just one of those ones, like, get their mums to the stadium and hit them with their bags. Son, come on. It's so bad. So it's just, you know, who's got that heart to drive them to the next level? Who knows? I think
I like the not rookie anymore, sophomore, Kobe White. Yeah. He's cool. I like the way he looks on the court. In terms of body language, and I think he had a good solid rookie season, but I want to see how he evolves with the better coach. I guess that's the one thing if you want to look for something out of the Bulls this season.
They really need a playmaker, and he took on some of those duties last season, but it remains to be seen whether that's his game or not. They definitely need a playmaker over there. But with the young guys, Wendell Carter and Markkanen still over there, I think Billy Donovan's a good coach for a young team, which is definitely not what Jim Boylan was. So, moving on to another great team, the New York Knickerbockers.
God, I'm busy. Oh shit. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna stick to my Excel spreadsheet right there. Players out. I'm about to drop some names. You probably never heard of them. So got rid of the head coach Mike Miller. Not the ones you think it is. It's not Mike Miller, the player. It's Mike Miller. It's not the
Mike Miller.
It's another Mike Miller. So we didn't know who he was before. We don't know who he is now. We don't care. He's gone. They lost Maurice Harkless. Cool. Bobby Portis. Wayne Ellington. Don't care. Taj Gibson. Yeah, all right. And Alonzo Trier. So big names, cleaned out. I think the biggest signing was Leon Rose as the new president. And then Tommy T as a head coach, former Bulls. You know who it is, Thibodeau. And then they got a bunch of solid guys in there with MKG. I'm not going to say his name. You can say it, Dave. You like to say his name. Michael Kid
Gilchrist.
Yeah, whatever. Austin Rivers. That's a solid move there. They got Alec Burks from free agency. Nerlens Noel. And then they resign Peyton as a point guard. And then interestingly, they've drafted. I think they drafted interesting. Just say that word twice in the space of 10 seconds. Obi Toppins at number 8, and Emmanuel Quickly, I think further down in the first round. So they'll be interesting. I think Toppins is a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the reactions and then analysis that were made on him. He's the oldest player in the draft. Can't really defend that well, but he's sort of reminiscent of a younger Stoudemire. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's what people are saying.
So we'll see. I saw a bunch of highlights of his on YouTube, and it looks quite cool. He looks like his body is ready for the NBA, certainly. So that would be exciting to Knicks fans. So I think the X Factors, the X Factors is get back to him, but it's Rose and how he's going to rebuild, from the inside out the franchise. Because I think everybody knows that the Knicks were a bit of a massive joke in the last 20 years. And I think he's trying to rebuild the image within the NBA. So that's what I'm saying. The signings he's done, the players he's brought in, and the coach that he's put in place, they're all solid. I think he's trying to make sure that there's no clowns on the team this season. And they probably won't do the playoffs. I've put them second from the bottom, top of the Bulls. Not because I don't think they'll stink or anything. I think they're just going to try to put something in place that's a bit more coherent, and sign maybe players that are not stars or former stars. Why are you laughing? Dave? Why are you laughing?
I
That smirk on your
mean,
face.
you put them second bottom of the East and said they won't stink. I mean,
No. In the way of like, you know, when you get J.R. Smith,
it's gonna
and
at least
like,
smell down there.
A, that's what she said, and then B, I think they're trying to build something interesting there. I think they're trying to be a bit more serious with who they're signing. You know, and like I say, you know, they won't get somebody like J.R. Smith that's going to come in on the court without his shirt on or something, you know, and start chucking threes with 25 seconds to go on the possession. You know, it's it's interesting. I'm not excited because I'm not excited anymore by whatever the Knicks are trying to do, but I'm intrigued. I think that's the word I'm going to use for them. What do you guys think?
Well, I've got a solution for it.
Are you biased?
I've got a solution. There you go. Jeremy Lin's looking for a team. There you go. I think he can bring it back. Lin's sanity. Hey, you know, it's been 10 years. Let's bring it back. 15 years, blimey.
Wow.
The Knicks, yeah, like you said, they're just not the number one. They're just not a hot destination anymore. You know, they're like a big market team, and nobody wants to go there. Strange. Why is that? You know what I mean? Obviously, is it the owner? Is it the ownership? Is it, you know, the performance of the team? You know, it's a combination of everything. But it's just, you know, just need the right couple of players to just have confidence in that environment that can turn it around, because, you know, it's a place that everyone wants to go to. Everyone wants to go to New York, but, you know, they probably prefer to go to Brooklyn now rather instead.
Yeah, and that's where you're right. It's the ownership. I think it's being associated with Dolan. It's still a massive, you know, it's still a big no-no among the players. And, you know, the big names are going to the Nets. Why? It's because Dolan's not there. You know, it's just as simple as that. They don't have more money. They don't have more history than the Knicks. It's just, and that's to my point. That's what I was saying. This, I think Rose is trying to change the overall image of the team. I don't think we'll see any big names for the next couple of years unless we get Westbrook, which I don't think that's going to be a thing. But like, yeah. By the way, I've got something in case Westbrook signs for the Knicks. I've got my backup plan already in place. So, you know, we'll see next couple of weeks
Right.
if that happens.
Jose?
The last good thing the Knicks did was sign Patrick Ewing back in '86. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm happy for Rivers, Austin Rivers. It's a good player. Yeah, bottom of the table again. It's a very much a team that it needs some rebuilding done. I'm gonna stop there.
For sure. Moving over to the Detroit Pistons.
Another fun team to talk about. They won 20 games last year. Excuse me. 20 games last year. They actually moved a lot. They lost a lot of players. Bruce Brown, Luke Kennard, Kyrie Thomas, Tony Snell, Christian Wood, Langston Galloway, John Henson, Brandon Knight, Thon Maker, Jordan McRae, Darren Walton, Jordan Bone, and Louis King. And they're left with 5 players.
What?
Yeah, they cleaned house.
Shit.
They cleaned house. They added a lot of players in the draft. Actually, they got 4 picks in the draft this year. Killian Hayes, 7th overall. Very interesting player. Then Isaiah Stewart and Bay, 16th and 19th overall, respectively. Saban Lee, 38th, second round, obviously. They got the lone rights, Musa Magruder, and Dedmon.
Oh, Dedmon, yes.
Yeah. Guys, this is not really an X factor in this team. The only thing that I do always look forward when I watch the Pistons play is just watching D-Rose play. He's a 40p. Let's not forget about that. So that's it, guys. Killian Hayes, the rookie, you know, if he can learn a small percentage of what Derrick Rose has to give, he's going to be a good player. Yeah. And we might see a good couple plays from from Blake. Bottom of the table again. Not much to say.
Yeah, I think they more than anyone has sort of embraced the rebuild. You can tell by the players that they let go, and then they've brought in youth, as you've said. So I think they have leaned right into the artist formerly known as tanking. And I'm sure that they'll try and ride out the Blake Griffin contract somehow, some way. If they could move him, they would. But he's going to have to get on the Chris Paul health diet and put in a good season for them to be able to trade him.
Yeah.
And then they can go all in on that rebuild.
Yeah, I think the identity of the team has just been destroyed. You know, obviously Bad Boys is a figment of our imagination. You know, paying off, you know, Reggie Jackson and, you know, other players to leave the team and still pay them ridiculous salaries just kind of said it all, really. But I don't know. I don't know what their plans are, what they're really trying to do, because I see the people that they've got coming over, they're probably leaving the next couple of years anyway. So I think, you know, where's that, you know, like you said, Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose, all kind of veterans and all kind of, you know, stalwarts, you know, great players in their own rights and in their heydays, but they're kind of, you know, feeding off injuries and such. So it's going to be tough to kind of really create that identity that Detroit really needs to then acquire or to even nurture better players. So, you know, Christian Wood, you know, he was a decent player. He came through, but now they've let him go. So it just makes you wonder really what they're thinking and what's going to happen. So
yeah, they're hard to read. I don't really know what the expectations are over there. I just hope they're not going to mess Killing Eyes. I mean, if they can play, give him a lot of minutes, that'll be great. Because they've got nothing to win, nothing to lose in that season. I mean, they can finish. There's nothing to play for them, really. There's no expectations also for them to do anything. So just get the rookies to play, trying to get them to become good, solid players. Let's see what it takes you, you know. Get rid of Griffin in it.
Yeah.
Well, how long has he got left? 1 year, 2 years in his contract?
I think that's it. They did bring in, and I'm sorry I skipped it, Mason Plumlee and Jalil Okafor. You know?
And that contract that they paid Plumlee was insane. I don't know who they were competing against in the market.
I think that Plumlee's agent is a wizard.
Get him a raise.
When it comes to negotiating.
He must be. Man. So we move on to our penultimate team, an interesting one in the Atlanta Hawks.
Indeed.
Yes. Atlanta Hawks. You know, I think they're actually like one of my teams to watch last season. I think, you know, you have to kind of give it up for kind of Trae Young in particular. Obviously, he's kind of a great kind of entertaining player. He just hasn't proven that he's a winner as yet. I think they only won 20 games last season.
20.
So 20 games. And, you know, obviously him and John Collins, I think the John Collins kind of drug situation at the beginning of the season definitely took them the wrong way, you know, because they had a couple of games where they started well, then they just had a little kind of downward spiral. Good couple of young guns in obviously Cam Reddish and Bruno Fernando and Kevin Huerter as well. But I think, like you mentioned earlier, Bogdanovic is joining them. We've got Gallinari, Chris Dunn, you know, defensively is a good pickup. You know, Rajon Rondo is going to provide a lot of kind of mentor, kind of leadership to Trae Young. So I think they've got that mixture now where it's not just youth. I think they've kind of got some kind of experience. I think Vince Young was a little bit too old to, you know what I mean, to actually do any damage on the court, you know. But I think, so they've got the kind of mentorship, leadership, particularly for Trae Young, because I think he's a liability on defense. So I think try and use him in the ways that will just be much more effective. So I think this could be a breakout season, definitely, for the Atlanta. If they stay healthy, if John Collins is smart, you know, I think he's got like ridiculous hops that I've ever seen and stuff, and catches alley-oops like nobody in the league. It was almost like Blake Griffin when Blake Griffin was Blake Griffin. And, you know, so I think the key, obviously, Trae Young, is the veterans buying into that it's Trae's team. You know what I mean? Because I think if they try and take away some of that glitz and glam away from Trae, he may not be that great facilitator that he can be. You know what I mean? So I think you've got to keep his ego up high and stuff. And I think also X factor on that team maybe is Lloyd Pierce, the coach. I think he's so used to kind of being that daddy kind of mentor that he needs to start coaching now. He needs to start winning ball games. He needs to start being accountable for their losses. I think too much of it was put on this situation, the young Bucks. I think now him as a coach, it's time for him to step up. So I can see them maybe squeeze into maybe 10th, 9th position. Maybe if they get, I think they'll be probably the most dangerous team in the playing situation if they make it that far.
Yeah.
But I think they can have a stretch of like 5 games to 7 games continuously. I mean, I saw a game last season against the Nuggets where they played fantastic. Trey Wood had about 40 points, but they just couldn't finish it off. But I think this year they've got players that can finish off games where Trey doesn't have to be so ball hungry and ball dominant kind of all the time. So I'm going to watch them with kind of eagle eyes and stuff. And I think, they're a great team on paper now. And it should be fun. Definitely a fun team to watch.
I agree. Bogdanovic and Gallinari give Trey. First of all, they're not. They're players that are not selfish. They're going to pass the ball as much as is needed for the team. That they have again, and I'm all about the European players, and they have the European mindset where they're here to win. And they know that they're going to win if Trey scores more than 30 points per game, right? They're happy scoring whatever they need to score, passing the ball. They're not, again, the most athletic guys, especially Gallinari. He's getting a bit old, but they're solid shooters. And it's Clint Capella still in the team. Let's not forget that they have a fantastic defender in Capella. And Rondo, I think that they are, if not the biggest, one of the biggest winners of the free agency, talking about the East.
I think so. What, Patris, did you get them just right outside the playoffs? So is that where you sort of put them?
I think so. I think it's a shame last season. I think they just need that little run, a couple of streaks to put in the confidence and to keep them going. I think they will steal a few games. I think they lost a few, like to Boston and to the Nuggets last season, which they could have won, but it just got down to crunch time. So I think they'll definitely, turn some heads this season.
Yeah, I see them slightly higher than that. I think between 5 and 8. I think I don't know. I really like what they've done, who they've signed. I think a lot of it makes sense. I think defensively they might not be like, okay, Clint's there. He can help protect the rim, but again, if they score 130 a game, they can probably go somewhere, in the East. I'm excited. There's going to be a lot more people watching the Hawks next season. I think they've done really well in terms of like marketing and rebranding the team, because they were, who talks about the Hawks? No one really, apart from CNN, who's there. But in terms of general media, there's nothing going for them. But I guess it'll be a great change of pace. If obviously the team gels and they manage to take off and build something coherent on the court now after they've done a good summer transfer window. Let's talk football a bit, but I'm excited for them. I want to see they there's something going on there also in terms of trying to make their image. Again, going back to marketing, where they're trying to sell their stuff now. They're trying to sell their products. They've released the new images for their new court. It looks absolutely amazing. If you've seen the new design, the jersey they look also amazing. So they've got everything going in the right directions. They managed to attract a bunch of players that are all confirmed player in the NBA. So there's unless there's a bunch of injuries in there, I don't see them being as crap as they were before. But certainly hoping for them to get to another upper level.
Yeah. I think the crazy thing for them is that they've essentially kept their starting lineup from last season, but their whole entire starting lineup minus Trey Young could be their bench this season because of the players that they've brought in, and that's a really exciting prospect for the team. So we come to the final team, bottom of the East, was the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, I forgot about them.
The Browns friends.
Still undefeated in the Eastern playoffs. The championship goes through them.
Yep.
They let me switch screens. So this is a really weird team, weird roster to me. I think that's part of why they are where they are. When you look down the roster, I have them in order of salary, and Kevin Love is at the top, as he should be, followed by Andre Drummond, who opted in, I think, to his extra year on the contract. Then next up, you have Larry Nance Jr., Dante X, Cedi Osmond, and Darius Garland. And I just think after those first two names, it takes a dip. But also when you consider both of those players that I mentioned first in Love and Drummond are essentially centers now. Like Love can't stay in front of modern power forwards. And yeah, Drummond has always been a center. So their two highest paid and best players play the same position. And then you've got to drop off to the role players. And their problem last season, as Love would attest, was a lack of playmaking from their guards. So they started Darius Garland and where is he?
Sexton.
Colin Sexton. Yeah. And neither of them was too happy about passing the ball inside too much to their better players. So they just have this weird hodgepodge of young talent and old veterans, and it's just a really mixed bag at the forward positions, which are so important in today's league. They have they've just signed the rookie Isaac Okoro, who's shown some really good flashes on offense, and is a solid defender as well for his position, and maybe up one and down one. Really good perimeter defender. And then Porter Jr. has also shown, Kevin Porter Jr. has also shown some flashes of talent, but it's just going to be a matter of sort of molding the team into something that can be something in the future. I still don't think they have their star of the future in any of these young players. So I think it will be another season at the bottom, trying to find that player that can help them transcend.
There's a player that
can trade Kevin Knox. We can send Kevin Knox there.
That would change everything.
Yeah.
I've got a player. I was just going to say, sorry. There's a player in maybe 4 years' time when he retires. He may go there. You know what I'm talking about. LeBron makes his last visit to Cleveland. There you go. So,
third time's the charm.
Well, his son probably will be playing there. So he's like drafted by the Cavs.
You never know. They might play together. I think that the most exciting thing about Cleveland this year is going to be the rookies. What a shame. I mean, Kevin Love, man, he used to be such a good player. He's gone down, man.
Wow.
Well, I think Kevin Love is, I won't say he's been overrated, but I think he's never really tapped into what made him a start in Minnesota. You know, obviously he jumped to Cleveland and, didn't predict that LeBron would come and, that Kyrie and whatnot. And he obviously had injuries as well. But I feel like Kevin Love has never really, I think as the NBA's changed, he hasn't changed. He started hitting the threes and he had a few kind of breakout games, but he's never consistently kind of moved with the times. He's still that kind of back to the basket, and we're going to get, rebounds and do long outlet passes. He's not really agile enough to kind of fit in with the more athletic way teams are going. So I think, that's just been his downfall, but I think Cleveland have needed someone to put the franchise on their back, and he was the only one that stuck around. So hence why he got the big contract as well. And yeah, I think until he kind of goes, I think they'll probably just continue with the rebuild. But I think, where's his trade value? That's the big question that they're probably asking right now about Kevin Love. So, yeah.
I don't think he's got any left. So he's just another casualty of the LeBron train.
LeBron effect.
Yeah, leaves a wreckage behind him when he leaves. Yeah, so that's it, guys. We wrap that up. Next week we have the Western Conference preview to do. That should be fun. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Listeners, remember to like, share, subscribe review, do all the things that help us expose the podcast to more and more fans, more and more people. And I think we'll call it a day there, gents. So from me, David Sago, from Thomas Arnold, from Jose,
Cheers, guys.
and from Patris,
Peace.
we're out of here.